Guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Sorry if my hair is looking a little bit crazy. It's like half wet right now, but this is the only time that I had to film as it is a long weekend and I am going away for a week, which I am so excited about. But because of that, today's video is going to be on the shorter side, and the video that I'm going to be uploading not next week but the week after that will also be on the shorter side. Right now I'm just aiming to upload once every 2 weeks because once every week obviously wasn't working for me. But yeah, the next two videos are probably going to be both on the shorter side. But with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of the topic that we're going to be discussing today, which is the green children of Woolpit, before you've seen this video, but I hope that you guys still enjoy it. While I'm researching for videos, I do tend to kind of like keep topics, and I'll like start researching them and then I'll realize that there isn't enough information or the topics have been overly talked about, and then I'll save that topic. And then right now what I'm doing is I'm going back and going through the topics and picking ones that I thought were interesting enough to talk about. But in this particular case, I'm talking about it today just because it's a shorter topic, and I do think that it's worth discussing because I do think that it's really interesting. I don't know if I explained that very good, but yeah, I hope that even if you have heard of this topic before, you are still going to find today's video interesting and maybe you'll learn something new. Also, if you can see this right here, it's my dog. I don't know what he's doing, but he just wants to stand beside me today, so that's what we're gonna be dealing with. And if you're wondering why he's wearing a winter sweater, it is because it is absolutely freezing in here and I can't figure out the thermostat. So anyways, today we are going to be talking about the green children of Woolpit. Woolpit is a small town in England and it still exists today, but at this time it was really rural and it wasn't near anything, and at this time it was also said to be very quiet and peaceful. It really only got attention actually because of the case that we are going to be discussing today. The town got the name Woolpit because all over the outside of the town the villagers had put these huge wolf pits. I'm gonna say wolf pits because that's really what they were. They were these huge pits that were placed there to capture wolves and other animals that would cause harm to the people who lived in the town. And the purpose was that the animals would come across this pit, fall into it, and get caught, and that is why the town is called Woolpit. So I guess originally it was called Wolf Pit and then they switched it to Woolpit. And I'm going to assume that the pits were somehow covered by like trees or something because I can't see wolves being stupid enough to just walk into a hole, but I guess you never know. One day people from Woolpit were going around harvesting and getting ready for the winter weather when they were going and looking in the pits, and that is when they saw in one of the pits two small children. However, these were not your average children, as it is said that both of these children had green skin. The children that were found in the pit were a boy and a girl. The girl was older and the boy was younger, and they were siblings. Now, the fact that their skin was green wasn't the only strange thing about this. It is also said that the clothes that these children were wearing were of an unknown material, and the children were speaking in a language that was completely foreign and unrecognizable to the people who lived in Woolpit. Obviously, the people who came across the children were adults, and they did what any adult would do, and they gathered up these two children out of the pit and they took them back to town. Now, whether this was to show the other villagers that they had found children with green skin or to genuinely try and help the kids out is unknown, but they took the kids to the home of a knight, and this knight's name was Richard Dayholm. And once the children were in this knight's house, he would shelter them and he would begin to offer them food. He offered them bread and meat and vegetables and pretty much anything that you can imagine, but the kids refused to eat absolutely anything. This went on until one of the harvesters brought in beans, and the children motioned to the fact that they wanted these beans, so the adults gave it to them, and they cracked open like the bean pods, but they cracked open the wrong part, and so it was completely hollow inside and there was nothing in there. And when the children noticed this, they started absolutely wailing. They were crying so hard until one of the adults showed them that you could open up the peas and that's where the pods were. And the children were so excited about this, and they would go on to eat nothing but green beans for days and weeks on end. This went on until one of the harvesters brought in beans, and the children motioned to the fact that they wanted these beans, so the adults gave it to them, and they cracked open like the bean pods, but they cracked open the wrong part, and so it was completely hollow inside and there was nothing in there. And when the children noticed this, they started absolutely wailing. They were crying so hard until one of the adults showed them that you could open up the peas, and that's where the pods were. And the children were so excited about this, and they would go on to eat nothing but green beans for days and weeks on end. Around this time, the children had been in the town of Woolpit for months, and they were also starting to learn how to speak English, and they both also been baptized. Now, the thing about this situation is the girl seemed to be adapting very, very well to this entire situation, but her brother wasn't doing as well. He wasn't adapting as quickly, and he was becoming very, very ill and wasn't learning as fast. He really had a problem with the food, and nothing really was taking to him as well as it was taking to his sister. Devastatingly and heartbreakingly, eventually the young boy would end up passing away. But like I already mentioned, the girl was adapting very well, and because of this, she was eating all of the food, which was helping the green tint in her skin go away, and she learned how to speak English very quickly, so she was pretty much unrecognizable, and she looked just like every other normal child that had grown up in Woolpit. With the young girl learning how to speak the English language, this gave her the advantage to be able to tell the people who were now raising her how her and her brother ended up in Woolpit and where exactly they came from. She told that they had come from the land of St. Martin, saying that this area is a place where the sun never fully rose. The brightest days were similar to twilight, but besides that, the place they had come from wasn't much different from anywhere else. The people were all green, but that was really the only difference between where she came from and the place that she was in now, which was Woolpit, according to her. When asked how her and her brother ended up in Woolpit, the young girl said that her and her brother were tending to her father's cattle when they heard the sound of church bells. The children were curious and they chased the sound of the church bells, which ended up being from a monastery which was close to Woolpit, and they followed this sound until eventually I guess they fell into the pit, and that is when they were found by whoever had found them. They said that they had fallen into the pit because once they got near Woolpit, the sun was out, and that was the brightest light they had ever seen in their entire lives, and it really threw them off and disoriented them to the point that they couldn't catch their footing or even really see where they were going, and that is how they fell into the pit. The girl did end up thriving in her life, and she did seem to be overall happy according to the story. However, something that sticks out to me is if the place that they had come from was so close that they could just walk there on foot from their dad's cattle ranch, why didn't they just walk back after they had gotten out of the pit? Why did they stay there? Why? And also too, why did that place get no sunlight? I don't know, the whole thing is obviously very strange. Two historians began to study this story, and they interviewed people from Woolpit, and both of them ultimately came up with the exact same story, and both historians strongly believe that this is in fact a true case. However, the only two differences between one historian's story and the other historian's story is that one of them has this all taking place between the years of 1135 to 1155, whereas the other has this taking place from 1154 to 1189. This story is super weird, and I'm not saying that I don't believe that these green children appeared. It's just the girl's story saying that they were that close to Woolpit is something that just seems unbelievable to me. I know that way back when, obviously life was very different and it wasn't as easy to get from town to town and things like that, but to have a whole place where the sun doesn't shine and it's close enough that these children could just wander into Woolpit but they couldn't find their way back home is just something that seems so out of this world to me. That once the girl's color faded and everything, she continued to work under the night, and she stayed with him until she was an adult, and then she married a man from a nearby town who was from a very successful and wealthy family. It is speculated that the girl's name was Agnes Barr, and she went on to marry a man by the name of Richard Barr, and again, he was a very successful person, and the two of them went on to have several children, but obviously none of this can be confirmed. Some people really believe that in this case, these children came from a faraway land where the sun never shone and they only ate beans. But if that was the case, why has nobody come from that land ever since? And why are there no more stories similar or like this? Even today, there isn't a place that I know of where the sun just like never shines. Like I know it shines at different periods, or like it stays shining for days on end in some places and it stays dark for days on end in some places, but the sun does eventually shine. So I don't know, it's just really super weird to me. This could also go hand in hand with the hollow earth theory, and maybe these children came from under the ground, and maybe there's a whole civilization of green people living under the ground. And I feel like that's very possible, especially because obviously if the sun's shining, it's not shining underground. That would make sense why they couldn't find their way back. That would make sense why they didn't know how they got here. Just to me, that is the most plausible theory that has come up in this case. Some other people believe that these children were some kind of mythical creature, but the theories on this are really never ending because this case is so broad and it happened so long ago that there isn't too many factors that we can do like background checks on or confirm. Guys, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. I'm so glad that I got to sit down and film, and I can't wait to do it again. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Also, I hope that you all enjoyed your long weekend, as it is over now when I'm uploading this, but right now it's just getting started. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.